nonsense.
Yeah.
So at least two of my co-hosts, at least one, I think two of my co-hosts, don't know about today's announcement. So I'm gonna drop it on them live on the episode. I think Mike looked at it.
Live.
Right, you looked at it, right, Mike?
I clicked on the link earlier when I saw it while scrolling through the chat logs and the Manipool channel, but I hadn't read the article yet. So I saw the title of the article, and I think like the first paragraph.
Nice.
But I haven't read it.
Excellent. And Brian was like, "Wait, what?" And I was like, "No, don't look yet. We're gonna do it live. Get your live first reaction. It'll be great."
And then obviously I didn't look at it.
Well, yeah. And yeah, we are talking about the Hearthstone changes. Yeah. Actually, we were talking about that before the show. For what it's worth, I'm excited about that.
I haven't even played in a long time, and I think that's pretty neat.
What are the Hearthstone changes?
Oh, right. That's while you were gone. They're moving a bunch of cards to the Hall of Fame. I think it's 9?
Mm-hmm.
The odd and the even guy, and all the odd and even cards, or the odd and the even guys, and then all the odd and even cards that go with them, and then Doomguard, Divine Favor, Naturalize. So they're essentially getting shunted off to just Wild.
Okay.
Won't appear in booster packs anymore.
Yeah. I mean, you asked.
Okay. Did they ascertain some sort of magical divine status where, like, everyone gets to have one? Oh.
No, it's more like everyone that has them doesn't matter anymore. Ha ha ha. They're prematurely rotating is what's going on with those cards. Because they're a problem. So just get rid of them.
That would be a way of doing it.
It is, yeah.
Of course, that gets around. So it's too bad Magic can't do that and be like, yeah, we don't want you guys to play with these anymore. We're going to go ahead and just rotate them out.
That's how Standard works.
I mean, that's how bannings work. They're essentially,
Well, I
if something's
understand
banned in
that,
Standard, it's
But
essentially...
that means you have to have a banning list.
Well, yeah, but I mean, a
Hearthstone
banned in
just said,
Standard
like,
is essentially...
No, we don't like these cards anymore, and just sort of magically sweep them under the rug and say, if you want to do ranked matches, you can't use them anymore.
Yeah, as I've been trying to say 4 times, being banned in Standard is essentially a premature rotation to Modern.
Mm-hmm.
So, essentially.
Guess it's the difference between digital and paper.
Well, I mean, in digital they could have just nerfed them, but the cards in particular, there aren't really ways to nerf them without it not working. So
Just might as well just delete the card.
exactly.
Another one bites the dust.
Goes to digital dust.
Literally.
Yeah, that was not a coincidence why I used that word.
Okay, anyway, so that's long enough. We should be able to, actually start the show proper. So, here we go. Ow, jam! Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Mana Pool. This is episode 545. Good lord, we're old. Of the Mana Pool. And I am Chewy. If you're watching this, I'm the head that's way over on the right. The one that's lighting up. That's me. Look, it lights. Upwind. I talk. Okay. But with me, all of these dorks to my left are these other dorks that are to my left. So hi, dorks.
Hi, I'm Brian, and if you skip over Dirk, then I'm the one that's lit up right now. Right now. Right now. That's me.
I'm Mike. I'm the rules guy and the Game More guy. And I don't have the Twitch stream open because it interferes severely with my connection to the call. So I'm just going to guess and say that I'm the one lighting up roundabouts now.
I'm Dirk, the self-proclaimed greenest man alive and moral compass of the group. And none of us died from some sort of nuclear explosion, which would definitely have lit all of us up.
That was oddly
who are not
present.
lighting up on the
That
screen.
escalated really quickly. Did you notice that?
Right? Yeah. Huh. Dirk's just a bundle of joy, isn't he?
Woo!
I always tell the kids that, you come to my class for the nice pep talk on, how life works.
Or in some cases,
Since we talked about
apparently
sickle cell
doesn't.
anemia,
Duh.
what was it, hemophilia.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we had all those fun discussions today. So
Speaking of which, last night on Netflix, I watched an episode of Adam Ruins Everything.
uh-huh.
That was Adam Ruins' death, and it was actually really, really serious and a bummer. And I just want you three to know that I love you guys. In
That's
case
why
we
you
do.
couldn't. That's why you couldn't sleep last night.
That's why I couldn't sleep. In case we do all light up an explosion, I want you three to know I love you guys.
I love you too, man.
But anyway, so now that Dirk has cranked it up to 11, let's back it down a little bit. So earlier today, there was an announcement by Wizards of the Coast about a new product. And like I said before the show, two of these guys know nothing about it. The third one only knows some of the things about it. So there you go. There is the link in the chat for the Discord chat for you guys.
Okay.
And here it is on screen once I find... Oh, I didn't get this set up. Hang on, I gotta reset.
Do I need to watch the video?
No, please don't watch the video.
Okay.
There it is. Boom.
It's 43 minutes.
Well, it's the full stream. But they've got it set to the proper time here. But anyway, this is Modern Horizons. It's a new set, but it's not Modern Masters. So real quick, Mike, what was Modern Masters?
Modern Masters was a reprint set that had modern legal cards, including several staples that people just wanted more copies of and hadn't been printed in a while and were getting scarce.
Right. So they were all reprints of things that were already legal in Modern.
Correct.
Modern Horizons is not that. Modern Horizons is a set that will be Modern legal, and thus Legacy and Vintage legal, but will not be Standard legal.
Huh.
That will have reprints, but only, we think only, reprints that were not already in Modern, and new cards.
So the reprints that would not be legal in Modern would be
Older.
anything that was printed prior to
Modern.
yeah.
Prior to,
which
8th edition and Mirrodin?
And original Mirrodin, yes.
And
Yeah.
possibly some stuff from, like, Commander sets or Conspiracy sets or something like that, possibly.
That's a good
Right.
point. Mm-hmm.
Right.
I don't know if they specifically talked to that end of things, but they did specify there were older cards.
But that's interesting because they don't have to worry about the power level of Standard.
Exactly.
Huh. Okay.
Oh, they did say only cards not currently legal in Modern. Okay, so every card, apparently, in Modern Horizons is new to Modern. Some of them are reprints, some of them are new cards, but they're all new to Modern. There is a buy-a-box promo that you'll get not in packs, but from buying a box, but it's one of those reprints that's new to Modern.
So it's not that it's never, you can only get it this way.
Exactly.
Huh.
So that's cool. And on the screen, they showed two new cards, both of which are really freaking sick.
Okay.
So we've got the Cabal Therapist for a single black mana as a 1/1 horror. It's rare.
Does this do what I think it does?
Yeah, it has Menace, And it says, at the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, you may sacrifice a creature. When you do, choose a non-land card name. Then target player reveals their hand and discards all cards with that name. Yes, the Cabal Therapist flashes back a Cabal Therapy.
Yes. But it's repeatable.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a 1/1 with Menace for 1. So it's a wonderful enabler for, like, say what's the new Rakdos thing? The Hurtum mechanic, the Spectacle. Say that finds a home in Modern,
which it has.
Okay, see, I don't keep up with that sort of thing. Then this is an easy turn 1 drop, turn 2. Get in there with Menace and punch them in the face for 3 damage and draw, quote unquote, 2 cards with Light Up the Stage.
Yeah, and Light Up the Stage is the card I meant when I say it has found a home in Modern.
Mm-hmm. Well, I didn't know Skewer the Critics also did.
I think it has too, yeah, but to a lesser extent.
And then turn 3, you're like, play a chump, move to combat, sack the chump. Cabal Therapy. My eye is twitching a little bit.
Well, I mean, you can't... It says your pre-combat main phase, so you can't play a chump and then move to combat and sack the chump.
Oh, beginning. Oh, okay, for some reason I saw
Mm-hmm.
Pre-combat, not combat itself. RTFC. Okay.
I think I saw that the first time I read it too, Brian. At the beginning of your, I just saw the word combat and I glitched out.
Yeah.
There we go. Okay.
Yeah, I've had a few hours to digest this. These guys are just now seeing it for the first time. So.
What's this other one?
And this other one is so sick.
Sarah. We're actually getting a Sarah Planeswalker. That's cool.
But she's an angel with no sword.
It is a problem. Well, she's not actually an angel.
She's like the mother of angels. Like mother of dragons, but angels. What?
All right. What's it do there, Brian?
All right, for 2 and 2 white, it's a 4. So it's a 4. It's almost like a 4 for 4. Ha 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 ha. For 2 and 2 white, comes with 4 plus 2, which is a lot. Like anytime you see more than +1, you're like, okay. +2, creatures you control with flying get +1/+1 until end of turn. Seems narrow, but it's flavorful for her, and it feels like it would work really well with Spectral Procession. -3, create 4/4 white angel creature token with flying and vigilance. -6, you get an emblem with worship. What? You get an emblem with, if you control a creature, damage that would reduce your life total to less than 1 reduces it to 1 instead. You know what the best way to deal with worship is? You naturalize it. You can't do that to an emblem.
It's true.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you still have to have a creature around, but I don't know how I feel about this. I mean, it's interesting, but this feels like it. I feel like this is gonna make people upset.
So here's the full art. But
That's
beautiful.
It's actually too big to fit on my source here, but yeah, Magali Villeneuve. I don't know how to pronounce her last name, but she posted the full art right after the card was previewed.
Villeneuve? I don't know.
No idea. Everyone just calls her Magali. It's because it's all you need. It's like Cher. But yeah, is that not awesome? What was that?
Cool.
Magnar Creel just became a lifeguard again.
And I love that the art, obviously this is in Sarah's sanctum. Sarah's realm, so...
Yeah, and in the full art you can actually see the bit of Sarah's sanctum off in the corner.
Well, it shows up on the card too, but you can see a little more. That's cool.
She has the like asymmetrical sleeve thing going on, like Sarah Angel did.
Oh yeah.
I think that was originally because Douglas Schuler just kind of forgot what he was doing partway through and was like, "Oops."
I agree with the guys in chat. This feels like if it's not a playmat, it really should be. Like, really should be.
I'm certain it will be.
There's also some Sarah key art that will probably be all over the packaging. It's I mean, you can see some of it here in the that's not what I wanted to do. Here in the video, where was that? Yeah, right. Wait, right there. Oh, come on. Right there. Yeah, you can see it over here on the side, sort of. That's a different Sarah art. But anyway. But yeah, so that's all we know. That's not all we know, actually. On Magic Online, they'll be $6.99. There's an announcement recently, for those that don't know, that they're not doing MSRPs anymore.
Yeah, I saw that last week, and I didn't know if we wanted to mention it, but it was literally like a one blurb. Hey,
we covered it on Monday Night Magic and some potential ups and downsides and whatever, but they're on Magic Online, boosters will be $6.99. So take from that what you will. The pre-release will be June 8th and 9th, but the pre-release is going to be a draft pre-release, not a sealed pre-release. And Brian has just pooped himself.
It wasn't. I'll be back in a minute. I'm sorry, I couldn't make that in anything funny. That's, granted, I love pre-releases sealed pre-releases. It's awesome. But if there's anything better than sealed, it's draft. And yeah. So when is that? June 8th and 9th.
Yep.
That is the weekend before GPDC. LOL.
All right, and Brian just turned into a 15-year-old girl, so...
Sorry. That
just for putting LOL at the end for no reason at all.
Well, GPDC, I just felt like throwing a couple other letters in there. That's all. Yeah, see, it's bad when I have to explain it.
EST, LMNOP.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that is today's announcement that was teased by Mark Rosewater on his Tumblr, I think it was, a week or so ago. Maybe 2, I don't remember now. But whatever. Mm-hmm. That was the big announcement. This is pretty big. Modern getting stuff big. Yeah. That was not in Standard first.
So, but that's interesting. So if the previews are going to start at the end of May, we're going to literally go right from War of the Spark. We're going to have like 2 weeks off to enjoy that set, and then we're going to get into previews for Modern Horizons. And then we're going to have a couple weeks with that set, and then we're going to get into
core set
previews.
Yeah. So summertime means never-ending preview season is back.
More like late springtime. Jay Spencer, I cannot promise I will never do that giggle again, but we'll see. It was pretty horrifying, and
it scared me, and I'm usually immune to that sort of thing. Oh yeah, Nerd Soda pointed out it's worth mentioning that this is this year's innovation set. Usually they're called draft innovation sets, sort of, but I guess they've swapped that out for just plain innovation sets. Mm-hmm. And the last several innovation sets were Conspiracy, Battle Bond, Unstable. In no particular order. So now we get Modern Horizons. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
That is neat that they've finally taken a step to test this out. Because I know there have been times where they've had ideas for reprints to like get more copies of something back out there to get it back into Modern, and they didn't. It was you can't do that by putting it in a Commander set or something. That just doesn't produce enough copies.
Yeah.
But then they found that when they were testing, it just had a really awful effect on the standard they were testing.
Mm-hmm.
Like the example that sticks out in my mind is that Liliana of the Veil was tested for M11, M12, something like that, one of those. But it just made the standard environment they were testing horrendous. So they took her out.
I can see that, yeah.
Yeah. So there you go. That's that.
Sweet. Well, I appreciate doing the whole live reaction. I had not heard that.
I especially liked your what? That was nice.
That was totally natural, I promise you. Because I'm going along like that first ability seems niche, and then I'm like, but it's +2. +2s are always good. Like, even if they're not that useful, +2 on a Planeswalker can be a lot, unless you're already behind, and then, who cares? -3 to make an angel is pretty sweet, considering you can use it immediately, just like, hey, look, here's an angel. And then I'm getting to the last part, I'm like, read the first couple of words. I'm like, if you control a creature, okay, that can apply to a lot. Damage that would, no, wait. But I appreciate, because one of the first images from worship, I think, incorporates someone worshiping an image of Sarah, right? So, from Urza's block. So, hey.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, I didn't finish my thought earlier. So yeah, even them thinking about reprints to get more into Modern, and it didn't work because they didn't want to pass them through Standard first. That's why they went to Modern Masters. But like for Conspiracy and Commander, for the new cards there, their new ideas are safe because they only end up in Legacy because of the legality rules that they have around there. They only show up in Legacy and Vintage. But if you want to make something new like that for Modern, you have to print it in a much higher quantity than just putting it in a Commander set. It can't be like True Name Nemesis, where it's fine that there aren't as many copies as there would have been had it been released in a normal booster product, because it's only legal for Legacy and Vintage anyway, which are much, much smaller crowds in terms of tournament play.
Yeah.
But if you want to release something directly into Modern, you got to print a lot more of it, because a lot more people play that format. If you don't want it to be like $70 or something stupid like that for everything, for every card in the set.
Oh, my bad. This is also huge news for everyone who is concerned that because of Magic Arena and because of the deafening silence from Wizards of the Coast about anything other than Magic Arena for the past couple months, people were terrified, mostly unreasonably so, and with certain content creators fanning the flames, but people were concerned that they were going to just start completely ignoring everything that wasn't Arena, and therefore anything that wasn't Standard was just going to get ignored. Sort of like Hearthstone does with Legacy. Not Legacy. Wild. Sort of like Wizards does with Legacy.
I forget. First of all, I haven't played Hearthstone in a while, but second of all, I forget that Hearthstone has Wild.
Yeah, exactly. But, yeah.
I just need to dust all my old cards. I never used them for anything.
But this is amazing news for those people. Because that means, look, Modern is getting a brand new, never-before-seen influx of cards. Clearly the format isn't going to start getting ignored and be dead. So you can stop panicking now. It's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Will this be available on Magic Arena?
They didn't say, but I don't think so, because there's no Modern in Magic Arena. This will be on Magic Online. Like I said, packs are going to be $6.99 there. So, oh, they did say no. Yeah, so there you go. Thank you, Stark. So yeah, there you go.
Sweet.
But this is a huge influx for Modern. I'm very excited for Modern players. I don't play Modern, so I don't care. But if I did, I would be super hyped.
I don't. Every time I was going to say step my toe, but stub is probably more accurate. Into Modern doesn't work for me, but I appreciate that it's there. And new set of brand new cards is always something to consider. I love Commander sets, so
it's true. Okay. So let's go away from that and into our actual main topic of discussion this week, which was a suggestion in the Discord server from hang on, who was it? Birdie and some numbers, but I can't remember. Birdie scroll 1174, who is a noob in his own words, and wanted some advice on deck building. And I went, yeah, but we've done that. And I realized, yeah, but that was like 10 years ago.
Did anybody else just hear Chewy robot, or was that just me?
It was me too.
Okay, because you blinked out when you said the word deck building. And I would not have known what you were talking about if I didn't know the topic. So, advice on deck building.
Yeah,
although,
but
if you heard yourself, then
not
they
what
would
you were
hear.
hearing.
Right.
Sorry, we were all paranoid about our connections earlier.
Yeah,
well,
we
and
were.
I thought,
Excuse
I
us.
thought anybody that's listening wouldn't hear what he said, and then after I said, I'm like, wait, everybody always hears what Chewy says, even if they don't hear ours.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yep. So,
Okay, so yeah, we decided to do some deck building stuff. Now, obviously, this is not going to be like how to build a deck to take down a Grand Prix, because that's not us.
I'm not here to tell you how to beat the mono blue deck.
Yeah, no. If you want to beat the mono blue deck, you have to distract your opponent with kittens or something. I don't know. But
The best GP finish any of us has ever made was Brian, and that was sealed. So no, we don't
Yes.
have any hot tips for you there.
Get a good fool. Build your deck correctly.
I did top 8 of PTQ and constructed, but I net decked. And hey, there is your number one deck building tool, net decking. Now, back in the day, we fell victim to that us versus them thing where there was net deckers and then there were the real Magic players. That's all nonsense. Like, if you want to build a deck that you know functions properly, that's how you do it. First time,
Yes.
every time.
Yeah. And you can always make modifications to it, but especially I think if you have the resources and if you're going to a tournament and going to the tournament with the expectation of, performing well, using that as a springboard at least is probably a good idea, because hey, this is a deck that functions fairly well in the current environment, because the synergies or whatever it does, the combos, whatever, works well. It's proven.
Yeah, it's a strategy that's actually worth pursuing.
Yeah. Now, I can't ever completely net deck, and it's not a judgment against people that do. It's a judgment against me. It's my inability to follow simple directions. But I will sometimes take that deck and put a twist on it, which usually goes against what the deck was trying to do, but it's me. And sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't. So, again, we're not here to teach you how to win GPs and celebrations and F&M or whatever.
Yeah, that's not us.
But here we're talking about more about just deck building basics.
Yeah. Now, the net decking thing is more for a specific, like, meta-specific format.
Yeah, if you want to go to a standard tournament or a modern tournament or something like that.
Yeah. Then that's the way to go. Now, if you just want to build something casually or a commander deck, you can net deck commander decks too. That's a thing these days because people have commander decks everywhere. But
it can get pricey.
Yeah, that's that too.
But and again, no judgment against the people that do that, because again, hey, I want to do powerful things or I want to do fun things. These all work in this deck. I guess I'm a little less eager to jump on that, but that's more based on my opinion and perception of what I play Commander for. Did you guys...
because I know for you and for us, we build in the sense that, the Johnny archetype looks for ways to express himself.
Right. And I'm not looking to express what someone else already came up with. I'm looking to express what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, we approached Commander from a very Johnny Jenny way because we used our decks as a way to express our personal weirdnesses.
Yeah. There was a Loading Ready Run episode that went out earlier this week or end of last week, and one of the guys on the show is saying, hey, check out my Commander deck. And he starts looking through it, and he's like, wait a minute, this is the Teysa deck. He's like, yeah, I showed that to you on the internet last week. Yeah, I thought it was great, so I built it. And the other one's upset because he was going to build it first, and now they're, upset. And over the course of the episode, you see how they deal with it. It was a really cool episode.
Was this an episode of Friday Nights?
Friday Nights, yeah.
Okay.
And it was actually really, really interesting because the bulk of the episode is they're doing a draft, and you're hearing everyone's thoughts as they're making picks. And it's really interesting. But you have this kind of setup with these two and the deck. And to me, my first instinct is from my perspective, not judgment, but would be why would you get a deck off the internet for Commander anyway? And if you were going to do it, why would it be a problem that someone else did it? But, it's whatever. It's my hang up, I guess. So it was still a really good episode. I highly suggest you check it out. But so the internet is there to use as a resource. And if nothing else, say maybe that you're looking for ideas, you can always see what other people have done. You got a blue-green legend out of the last set from a pre-release. You want to build a deck, a Commander or 60 card, and you're not sure. You're like, what else is there? You can either rack your own brain, or you can go to Gather and put in blue and green and wade through 50,000 cards. Or you could say, look on a couple websites and search for that Commander decks and see what other people have done as an idea.
Yeah, and it's very possible for you to go and look and see what are some cool Commander decks. If you know what your collection is, you can go, hey, I've got a couple of these cards, and based on what you see online, use that as a framework for building your own personalized Commander deck.
Yes.
Instead of just looking and copying somebody piecemeal and everything.
Yeah, okay, this guy's running.
We're trying to go with the cheapest route.
Yeah.
In terms of how to build
this
one.
guy's running Soul Ring and this other and this other and this other Mana Rock. I don't have any of those, but I still recognize that the deck, as he built it and as I want to build it, needs Mana Rocks. So you just throw in other Mana Rocks.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's the great thing about Commander, and we're getting slightly further ahead already than I wanted to, but we'll back it up in a minute. The great thing about Commander is that it doesn't matter. You can play literally anything you want in Commander. I'm not one of those people who thinks that there are staples in every color that you have to put in every deck of that color. I think that's, from my own perspective, just limiting yourself needlessly. Instead of having 100 card slots to work with, you've got these 20 staples. Well, now you've only got 80 card slots to work with, and a bunch of that's mana. But I build the Commander decks for a different purpose than the Staples people do. Not the people who work at Staples. I have nothing against them except I picked up the chair at no, that was at Office Depot. Never mind. I have nothing against Staples.
I agree with everything Shuey just said.
You also don't have anything against people at Staples.
If I feel like something is a staple or would just be almost a little too obvious, I'm actually disinclined to run it.
I get that sometimes too.
So let's back it up a little bit. When I way back, that's 3 ways, by the way. Actually, at this point, it's 4 ways. When I first learned how to build Magic decks, it was the 20-20-20 rule. Not rule, but that was the suggestion, is you have 20 creatures, 20 spells, 20 lands. That's your 60 cards. Do it. And for a long time, that's just how I built my decks. Because I didn't know any better. Whatever. And then I stopped playing for many years. And then when I got back with these guys in college, and I started building new decks, that's just how I did it. Not necessarily the 20-20, but that third 20, I always put 20 lands in the deck. Because we play multiplayer 60-card Commander. or not Commander. There was no such thing. We played multiplayer 60-card casual with, anywhere from 4 to 8 or 10 of us. Mm-hmm. And after a good while of that, I realized this sucks. And I, deck by deck, and this is a big deal for me, I deck by deck went through and added 2 lands to every deck and took out 2 cards. Which, I had probably 30 decks built at that point. Mm-hmm. So, this was a massive undertaking. And it made my decks better. So don't do the 20-20-20 thing unless you're running, I don't know, Mono Blue Tempo.
No, he's right, and I'll say that because I was learning Magic from these guys as well as some other people that we don't play with anymore, I was kind of taught don't ever run less than 20 lands, and 20 lands is probably optimal. And I think every new player falls into this trap, and you always hear about it, but people do it anyway. You start playing, and you realize lands are boring. With some exceptions, like Dark Depths, lands are boring. They are what fuels the rest of your deck. And when you're in the game, especially in a multiplayer game, and the game has gone on for a while, and you have all the mana you need, would you rather draw that 9th land or something amazing? I don't think, new player, experienced player, whatever, everybody's going to say, I want the really amazing thing. The problem, of course, that you figure out after you've been playing for a while is you need to be able to cast your spells. And
it doesn't matter how awesome the rest of your spells are if they're just sitting in your stupid hand.
And even though in casual you're a little more likely to, say, let people take a free mulligan, or because games may take a little longer, you have more turns to draw into the lands you need. Everybody has had that experience of, wow, I have 3 lands and everything in my hand costs 4 or more. Maybe I played a 2-drop and it's gone or whatever. I just need 1 more land. And then for 3 or 4 turns, you don't draw anything and you feel like you are completely out of this game. Everybody has had that experience. Everybody continues to have it. I mean, there's variance in this game. You could have 60 lands in your 61 card deck. Well, you're probably going to draw a lot of lands that way. But everybody has the chance to be mana screwed. But when you put in proper proportioning, it becomes less of a constant factor. The mathematics just work that way. I'm not a math person, but that's what I'm told. But I was taught 20 lands. And at first I'm like, no, I'm going to go to 18 or whatever. And I quickly figured out that doesn't work. But then like Chewy, I think I just took 20 to be the given. And then once I started to go into F&M and seeing other decks, I started playing against a little more competitive people. I remember one of the first times I added 2 to 3 lands to a deck. And it happened that I was playing a game and I was a little flooded, and somebody at the table was like, well, how many lands did you put in there? And I said 23, and they're like, you put in over 20? Almost like I broke a commandment or something. And I was like, yeah, I heard that you can, if you want to be consistent, 23 to 24 is pretty good. And they're like, what? So this was the mentality that I don't want to say I was raised with, but in Magic sense that I was taught with. That's not a slight against anybody on this call. That's not a slight against anyone that we played with. That was the mentality. And I had not, until we were discussing this episode, I don't think I'd ever heard it codified as the 20-20-20 rule. And I don't think I'd ever heard that about 20 creatures. 20 non-creatures, because I think
that was extreme long time ago.
Yeah. I think I had always heard that if you have less than 15 creatures in your deck really better know what it's doing, because otherwise you're just not going to be able to do anything. And that's not necessarily true, but I think that is probably more of a solid deck building tip. Even if you feel like you want to have a control deck, if you don't have a way to win without creatures, make sure that you've got a good amount of creatures, because you might build the deck and be like, I have this one win condition, and that's great, but especially if we're talking about multiplayer, people aren't going to let you keep it. I'm sorry. Especially in this day and age, there are ways to deal with creatures with hexproof. There's targeting removal. There's non-targeting. There's a million ways to exile things now. So if you want to win with Serra Avatar, that's awesome. All the more power to you. But you're going to get awfully frustrated if you have one win condition in your deck and you have 2 to 4 copies of it, and you can't ever get it or get it to stick. So I guess if we talk about rules that you shouldn't follow, like the 20-20-20 rule, I would say that when it comes to building your deck, think about how you're going to win. Don't just say, hey, this is a bunch of cool stuff. If that's what you want to do, that's fine. But be thinking about, as you're building the deck, what's the end game? How am I winning a game of Magic? And it may be that you have enough diverse stuff in there that it can change from game to game. But if you don't have any way to win, or if you've only got one way to win, you better make sure that actually is some way to win the game. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Great.
It does.
Aha. I said something valuable, or at least cognizant.
Yeah, I'm racking my brain, and I can't. Maybe it's just because it was too long ago for me to remember if it happened at all. But I don't remember what, if any, deck building tips or rules or whatever I got from the people who taught me how to play. Because at first I was just borrowing other people's decks. And the first deck I built for myself was beyond horrendous. And I don't know what the balance of lands versus creatures versus non-creatures were in it. After I got some more cards, I took it apart and rebuilt 2 decks that were only terrible.
Sorry.
But I do remember that for a very long time, I went by the internalized rule, and I don't know if it came from somewhere or if I came up with it on my own out of nowhere or what, where any monocolored deck was always 22 lands, no matter what it was. And any multicolored deck was always 24 lands, no matter what it was or what it was doing. And I think a lot of my casual decks are still like that because I never went back and looked at them critically with a critical eye.
Nice.
I think
but
what
I don't
actually
remember where that came from.
I think what actually what helped me, we talked at the very beginning of this about net decking. The first deck I actually built was I bought a pre-constructed deck. It used to be that whenever a set came out, they would put out 4 or 5 theme decks that were just ready to go out of the box. And I tweaked it a little bit. I got some cards from our friend Nate, who was teaching me to play, and I realized I liked black. It was a blue-green deck. It was from Apocalypse, and it was really cool. And I added some black, and I added some basically ways to recur creatures to my hand, so it kind of gained a nice little engine, and it was really good. It probably would not hold up for a minute in today's world. It was one of the first decks I ever wrote about when I was doing articles for cardshark.com. A better way to something was about that deck, because that deck stood with me for many years, and even after I didn't play it anymore, it's been locked into my head. And so even though I wasn't going online and using that resource, as infantile as that was at the time, I don't mean infantile like, immature, but literally in the internet was not what it is today. It was still taking a deck that had been properly proportioned with the mana and had enough creatures and ways to win balanced with combat tricks and other spells, and tweaked it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those precons and theme decks and whatever they're called now are also a very, very good starting point.
They still do. I mean, right now
especially if you don't have an expansive collection.
Yeah, they do the Planeswalker decks still, right?
Right, that's right.
And
So
they're redoing the Challenger decks again, but those are actually more for actual like going to FNM.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's still. I mean, if you felt like you're ready to try that, if that's what you're looking to get out of your Magic experience, getting one of those isn't a terrible idea. And then you can run it the way it is, or you can say, I like this, but I want to have this card instead of that card. Maybe I opened up a Planeswalker and I want to put it in there. Is Dirk muted? But I could have sworn I saw his forehead turn green for a second, but I didn't hear him.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
Dirk, is your forehead green?
Yes, my forehead is green.
Dirk, what was the first deck that you ever remember building for yourself?
Sorry, I'm sorry.
Yeah, my wife's talking to me at the same time everybody else is talking. So, for me, I think it was probably Nathan, or it was a pre-con or something, is what gave me my land and sort of the way the deck sort of is built together. And then I think somewhere along it, I think Chewy had mentioned the 20 land rule, or someone had mentioned the 20 land rule, and I rolled with it. And I found that the very first deck I built for Magic with the 20 land rule was terrible. Because I had my heavy hitters, but I had nothing. I mean, for a while, I would just sit there and just spin tires while I was waiting for lands. And then, until I get my big creatures out.
Well,
and then that's about the time I realized I needed to have like smaller creatures.
And I was going to say, you just hit on something that we hadn't. I mean, we've talked about lands, but we haven't really talked about having a curve.
Yeah.
And,
and for mine, like I said, mine was very top heavy. And for me, the thing that sort of helped me with that curve was having the Llanowar Elves, because I was obviously a green deck. And then at some point in all that, when Onslaught came, I was like, there's a lot of elves. And they do stuff when there's other elves. And I had already taken a liking to the Llanowar Elves. And so that's how the elf deck came about.
The infamous
elf deck. And the funny thing is that one started out with 20 lands.
But
the thing was, I was getting so swamped with lands, and by probably turn like 7, I would have so many lands. I'm drawing lands and going, I don't need all these lands. My deck is running. I need elves. And so that's when Mike had talked about having 22 lands to 24 and 20 being the standard. That's when I dropped down to 18. I took 2 lands out and put 2 elves in because I had enough mana makers, or at least low-costing elves in the beginning, that I would either get a Llanowar elf or I would have enough out that I could get the Channeler out. And once I had the Channeler out, I was done. I didn't need lands anymore because the Channeler just made me mana.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that is an excellent deck to look at because you actually broke some of the rules, but it still worked well because you had Llanowar elves and other elves that you could tap for mana fairly early in the game. You had Well-Wishers that would keep you alive
until I could get the stuff.
Until you could get the stuff. You had Channelers again for mana. There was an Elvish somebody that would like recycle dead elves back to your hand.
The mutant.
Yeah.
Whatever the mutant was.
The mutant thing.
The mutant thing. So even if we wiped your board, you're like, play this guy, name elves. Something like that.
Yes.
Right.
Elvish somebody. I'm going to look it up in a second. So your deck actually probably was close to what I'm not going to say it's close to what a modern elf deck looks like now because there's been so many better elves printed.
Yeah.
But from a multiplayer perspective, with the Well-Wishers and the other ways to keep yourself alive, it was really efficient at what it did.
Yeah. And it makes an important point of something that What did I just do? Did I just mute myself?
Nope.
No,
Oh,
we
you're
can
good.
hear you.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I saw something unfamiliar come up on the screen with volume controls. I'm like, where did that come from? Anyway, something that I want to lay out there. A lot of the tips that we're throwing out and talking about are good for, the average general deck, that doesn't exist. But it's at the intersection of where most decks are. Dirk's example shows that if your deck is doing something very particular, you can make it better by going against and breaking some of these rules and guidelines. But on average is what our guidelines will be applicable to.
Right. It's one that you can't build a deck and just say, okay, I built a thing. It's one where once you build it, that's awesome. Now go and play it
and fix it.
And you need to play it not once, not twice. If you have a group that you can play with that are also building decks and sort of doing the same deal, that's the environment where you find out, okay, this is not working, this is working, let me gear towards the part that's working and see if I can shift up into that area. And the places where, like, again, if you're getting flooded with mana, take stuff out.
Mm-hmm.
Take stuff, if you run into a problem where, okay, I'm not getting enough, then you either put mana back in or see about what Chewy was talking about and add in things that are dig for mana, like mana searchers, like
Rampant Growth or whatever.
Rampant Growth, yeah, something like that. That either goes and hunts for mana or gives you extra mana for a quick little spite. So it's stuff like that, and again, that's what makes the deck so dynamic. And the thing about 60-card decks that's different from a Commander is, Commander you only have the one card. So you get a lot of versatility in having, I want to go in this direction. You can go find one card and throw it into a deck to make it churn out, whereas with a constructed 60-card deck, you have to have multiples of it. And that's something else that this also needs to be kept in mind is, when do you need 2 copies of something and when do you need 4?
Very good point. Real quick, I did not want to interrupt Dirk because he was on a tear with that. But I dropped a link in the Discord. Elvish Soul Tiller. And I almost said a bad word, but it's in the Bible, but it's all right. Because every time he would play that guy, we'd be like, great. You'd throw up your hands because when it dies, you choose a creature type, shuffle all creatures of that type from your graveyard into your library. So it would take all the work we had done in destroying Dirk's board and put it right back.
And the thing I had realized with the elf deck, and that we're just using it as an example in this, that the elf deck was one where you have a lot of really small weenies, but they could make themselves bigger, or they could become a problem because it was sort of like the soldier decks, or like a Thopter deck, where you essentially get mauled by the large number, with a few heavy hitters that sort of are your coup de grace. Well, the Soul Tiller sort of helped with that, but one of the problems I kept running into is that they would just clear my board.
Mm-hmm.
Or what they would do is they say, okay, we want to get rid of that one, so we'll kill it, because it would slow me down, or it would shut down what my deck was doing. So for me, I had a problem. I focused on, there's this problem, how can I resolve it? And so this is where I delved into some sorceries that said, you can't target my creatures. And then that helped my deck grow this way. I threw in, it was the, is it a Muse? The Green Muse.
Seedborn Muse.
The Seedborn Muse. And that, even though it's not an elf, made the deck even more obnoxious and terrifying.
Well, and so I think you're hitting on a really good point here. Once you've figured out the theme of your deck, it's okay to go outside the theme a little bit if it shores up the deck's weaknesses. Mm-hmm. Because yes, you're right, it's not an elf, but it's something the deck wants a whole lot, because
The deck was very big into tapping something for land, throwing stuff out.
Well, and one of the best way, like say we wiped your board, there's an artifact that you tap 2 creatures that share a creature type to draw a card, right? Or to
Cryptic Gateway.
Cryptic
was
Gateway.
the one that I was abusing at one point.
You tap 2 creatures of the same type to put one from your hand onto the battlefield.
Right, yeah. And combined with draw effects, it was crazy. But guys, this is how crazy it was Dirk would have a Seedborn Muse out, and he would actually tell us, end of Brian's turn, you know what, I'm not even going to tap the Well-Wisher because I feel so bad for you guys.
That's how bad he was.
He would tell us that.
Just go.
So if we're using Dirk, I realize we've been going on for Dirk's deck for a while, but it really made a very interesting progression from having too many lands to cutting down on the land.
You guys are taking out my guys. Well, let me solve that problem with this.
Yeah, the reason we talk about that deck, and we've mentioned it not a whole lot lately, but we used to talk about it quite a bit, is because in all of our minds, we all remember it as exemplifying one of Dirk's most successful decks, and the reasons for it are all these reasons we've been talking about. And it was not perfect out of the gate. But he worked on it.
Yeah, and Dirk is also getting into like a further step here of metagaming, where depending on what happens in your play group, if you're playing casually, you're gonna change your deck accordingly. Like Dirk said, he had a problem where we kept killing his crap. Oh yeah, well I'll be able to get it all back.
Yeah, and things like that. And metagaming can also apply if you're obviously going to tournaments. When it comes to knowing what you're going to play against, and if you build a deck and you're really proud of it, and let's say you want to play with the original Vraska and you really want to get those assassins out and hit somebody with it because you think that is the best possible way to win your game, and no one will let you keep the dang things around, you have 2 options. You either take the deck in a different direction, or you modify it somehow so that you can protect them, so that you can get there. If that's still how you want to win. There's a third option, which is to whine about it, and
that was the option I always went with.
That doesn't. I mean, what evolve or die, adapt or die, right? Evolve or die, adapt or die, whatever it's called. Where
depends on which block you're in. There's also monstrosity or die.
Somebody get this man some +1/+1 counters. Stat. So, and when you build a deck and you're super proud of it, and somebody sees your win condition in the first game that you're playing and they shut it down, okay, that can be a little frustrating. And maybe you shuffle it up again. Who here has been at the table when somebody literally lost and the game is over, we're shuffling up for the next one, and they put their table down, put their deck down on the table, and they say, I'm playing this again because I didn't feel like it really did anything. Everybody's done that. Everybody's seen that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think we've all done that at least once.
Yeah.
But over the time that we've been playing Magic.
But there's a difference between not really having a chance to do something and giving something a chance or a couple chances and not paying attention to how other people at the table react. Because everyone deserves a fair shot to play their deck, but everyone also gets a fair shot to adapt to each other. And nobody says that just because you built a mill deck that I have to sit here and not naturalize your enchantments that are milling me because I don't want to die, So maybe I don't want to lose that way. And if you manage to get me, so be it. But you can't complain and just, wah. If I find a way to not die. I don't have to be an obnoxious jerk about it. I don't have to wow, I hate Chewy's deck so much, his graveyard deck. I'm literally going to run a deck that all it does is exile things from the graveyard. It can't win against anybody else. It doesn't do anything else. That's different. That's a silver bullet. My whole deck is a silver bullet to Chewy's deck, and that's me being an asshole. Yeah. But
we have sometimes had those where we thought, your deck is, and not really realizing it. We've had games where we would say, oh, I'm playing this deck, and someone would go, okay, I can't play this deck if you're playing that one, because we realized either if I play this, I was really gonna be a butthole about it. It was really gonna screw one person much more than anyone else at that table. Because that was the rule with the sliver decks. That Corey and I had sliver decks, and the rule was if one of you plays with it, the other one cannot play with theirs. Because they fed off each other too easily.
Yeah, these are the old slivers.
Yeah, these are the old school slivers.
Gosh, I haven't thought about this in forever. Here's a weird fact that I bet y'all didn't know. So for a very, very short period of time, Dirk's wife played Magic in high school with some of us nerds that she knew. And she had, I think she had gotten a deck from someone already made for cheap or free. It was green. It was good. It was green. And she, at one point, she specifically added some white cards to it that could exile black creatures because of someone else's black deck that she was having problems winning against. Gosh, I haven't thought about that in forever.
Nice. And yeah, that's another thing. Like, a bunch of us started playing Fogs and Fog type effects back in the day because so many games were decided by Giant Alpha Strike.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and it became a running joke. It's like, all right, I'm doing this. Does anyone have the Fog right now? I'll just tap everything and say go. Like,
because it sped the game up a lot faster if you just did that.
Moments peace, everybody. Moments peace.
oh god.
Yeah.
Fog with Flashback was played in probably by one person in every game.
Yeah. I had Constant Miss in a few. That's one with buyback.
Yeah.
I remember. I was going to be nice
all
and not mention it.
And then Corey's Thalla deck that did it too.
But I thought of that one, but you and Corey really the only ones that played that, whereas I feel like everybody had at least one deck with Moments Peace in it.
Mm-hmm.
And then Prismatic Strands, but that's more of a way to... It could be be a Fog, but it also could be like and I win.
Yeah. It could swing
Prismatic
both
Strands.
ways.
Hey, Chewie, you like Prismatic Strands.
Oh, jeez, Prismatic Strands.
I seem to remember that, yeah.
Oh, I thought you had Traumatic... I thought you were going to go like, because I thought you didn't like it, but...
Oh, no,
again,
I put it in several of my white decks. I have traumatic memories of Glory, but there weren't that many ways to handle cards that were in graveyards at that point.
Mm-hmm.
You pretty much either had... You didn't have things now like you do now that will exile and do other useful things that you might run for all sorts of reasons. Now, back then it was like it exiled and that's it.
Yeah, you had Tormod's Crypt that said, okay, it's a 0-cost artifact that you sacrifice to exile someone's graveyard. And that was it. Or you had Haunting Echoes, which killed most of my decks. Just
Yeah.
Or you had crap that literally just said exile stuff from graveyards, and that was all it did. And if no one was playing, Brian wasn't playing his deck with Glory, and it was just a dead card completely.
Right.
So we didn't play that many of those things, but everyone in the proper colors had enchantment removal and artifact removal and creature removal, because we all played with each other long enough to know we're gonna need it.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes I know I did this sometimes, and other people did too. We would kind of mooch off of the idea that someone else would have them in their deck, so we would skimp on them.
That is also
make that other person handle them. But hey, when I started playing with Bill and Animal, I started putting disenchants and naturalizes and all kinds of stuff in my decks, because man, Animal just liked building decks with lots of artifacts, and Bill learned to play from Animals, so he thought it was normal for a deck to be half artifacts. So yeah, there were a lot of artifacts to deal with.
Yeah.
Well, or
Pinball
you
Witch in the chat says, in college we had a guy who kept using infinite mana and Comet Storm as his only win condition. So I started running Dawn Charm and blanking his deck while still being useful in other situations. It's exactly.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
You adapt to what your play group is doing, and you swap things out. It might mean, like, diluting what your deck wants to do, but that's... If it's either dilute what the deck wants to do or your deck doesn't work...
Or you can't win, like, ever.
Yeah, like, building a deck to gun for one specific... Like, building a deck specifically to screw someone over is not advisable. But if you can put an easy don't lose the game button in your deck, then hey, might as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's sort of something, too. We've gone way bit off on this, but...
Well, it's all kind of coming back to deck building,
right.
So...
Who's that? Hey, Birdie's hosting us.
Yay.
Sort of one example or one thing to sort of learn from this is that it, like with Mike saying that he played with his high school group, he played with us, he played with Bill and Animal in grad school, is you've got, if you're just playing with one group, you're going to sort of get set up and learn how to play with one group. It's getting out to things in this is going to F&M, having a play group, potentially going to some tournaments is going to help you be a better person, a better builder overall, because if you just play with one niche group, that's all you're ever going to learn in how to build a deck.
Go to a Magic Celebration and just kind of hang out, because people will be playing Commander games or other things all over the place, both, sanctioned side events as well as people just hanging out. And you will see cards that you have never seen before. You'll see strategies that you couldn't think of. And most people are awesome and are not jerks and would love to just sit and play and see strategies that they haven't seen before. So,
or just sit and play and talk about Magic.
There you go.
Or, say, hey, what was it that you did and this, and be willing to say, yeah, I use this to do this. And I mean, you see combos and things that you can use, and having that experience of broadening what cards there are and the different combos and strategies they're used to unlock a card's potential is best done with not just one group. We've talked about net decks and all that. That's really what turned me off from F&M, because I was one trying to go and explore and build decks, but it felt like no matter what sort of deck I came with, I was always playing against a net deck that was always going to be better than mine. So for me, that kind of shut me down. But for people who have a F&M where there's a really good group of people who, bring experimental decks to F&M, you're going to have a completely different experience.
Mm-hmm.
Or it can also be that F&M is going to be the one that says, oh, if I'm going to compete with these people, I'm going to have to step up my game and do better in terms of the construction. That could also be something that helps you be a better player too.
Yeah, and I imagine back then, you didn't do a lot of communicating with the people at that F&M, so like your deck building was still largely informed by playing with us,
you guys,
like you were talking about earlier. Yeah,
and that's sort of what my sort of thing to take from it is, I had only built with these guys.
Mm-hmm.
I had never done any deck building with anybody else, and so that's what got me frustrated. Was I had never seen a net deck until I went to that. And it just, because I had gone, I played against one person and thought, okay, yeah, I really got tanked by this deck, but I'll do better with the next one. And then the next deck was the exact same deck all over again. It was like, what is this? Because there is no way that the same deck is being built unless, they copied it, only to find out that, oh yeah, I did this off of off this website, and with those built this online. I went and bought all the cards, and I'm like, what's the fun in that? And so again, that changed my perspective on it.
It's also worth pointing out, and thank you for the sub, Jay Barlow, for 19 months. Holy crap. It's also worth pointing out that F&M that was local to us at that time was extremely spiky.
Yeah.
Like, it was way far from the fun, friendly, quote-unquote casual F&M that lots of people have in their location.
Yeah, it's still pretty spiky in the Triad area, but not as much. I don't think it was as much as it was back then.
So, yeah.
And again, that depends on where you live in terms of the play groups, your personal play group, and things of that sort. So you're going to get different. You're going to get a different take on things depending on where you live and all that.
Mm-hmm. And I know at the time we had all learned to play and learned to build decks as, either little kids with no money or college students with no money or both. So the idea that you would just look up a list and buy stuff and build it was just like completely. We really found it very distasteful. Like Chewy said earlier, we had that us versus them mentality when it came to homebrews versus net decks, partly because of the resources that we had to deal with, that we had learned to play and build under.
Because I mean, we had to do a lot of trading between each other to get to the cards we needed just to build the deck that we thought, oh man, this card that came out, I need some uncommons for this. Who has some of these? And so we did a lot of trading between each other in college to get to the cards that we needed. Yeah, that's another thing too. That's a little bit different.
Yeah, that's
now
a whole other.
There are the online ones.
That's a whole other conversation.
Yeah, that is a very different conversation. So, number one, it really depends first off on what format you play in. Because are you playing Modern? Are you playing Legacy? Are you playing Commander? Are you playing two-headed? That will influence how you play, how you build the deck,
and what your goals are. Like,
yeah,
those guys going to F&M were playing to win.
Yes.
We never really played to win. We fit squarely into like Timmy Johnny before we knew what those were.
Yeah,
we played
you
to
do it.
Do cool stuff, and to prove that we could do cool stuff.
Yes, you build a deck that does a thing, and then you try to win with that thing. You hope you can win with that thing, but really it's about doing a thing.
Yeah, it's like, I made a 900 elemental, and then I lost, but I did it, damn it. Like Brian and his beloved freaking Shared Fate deck. I don't know if that deck ever won anything, but it wasn't the point.
It was never the point. The point was to get to play with a little bit of his deck and a little bit of his deck. And
once the Shared Fate deck got going, it was really hard to tell which deck actually ended up winning the game.
Even if you know who won the game,
someone won the game, but it probably wasn't with your deck, or at least your creatures.
No, my deck was entirely Shared Fate and draw spells.
Which is why I liked picking cards off the top of Brian's deck, because they said draw.
Yes.
Draw cards.
Yes, Mike, they did.
Lord have mercy. So let's get to some actual deck building tips. There's a thing that came up in the Manapool Discord server, which, by the way, anyone listening should totally join the Manapool Discord server. We're a good group of people there. There's a lot of us, but not very. Of the 100 plus, there's only 20 that actually talk a lot. So like a normal Discord server. But anyway, it was called what was it? Damn it, I already forgot. The Rule of 7.
The Rule of 7.
Which I had literally never heard of before that person brought it up, and I went, huh? So what the hell is that, yous guys?
The Rule of 7, as it was explained to me, is actually something that I had heard before. I just not heard the name of it. It's when you think of the 7 cards that would make the basis of your deck, and you start plotting out your deck assuming that you have 4 copies of each. And then once you have that, you start taking some of those copies away to put in other cards, but you think that those 7 cards are the basis of the deck. And then, of course, you've got, what's that? That leave, how many lands does that leave? 24? 7 times 4 is 28? Wait.
Yes.
Yes. Wait. I married a CPA, so I would not.
That leaves you with 32 other cards past
32.
your 4 copies of these 7.
Yes.
So that's where you put in other stuff, and then your 24 or whatever lands.
Right. And that, I think, is an interesting way to start. And I have actually started building when I would think about going to a tournament and I was trying to figure out a deck that I wanted to take. I've used that method to say, although again I didn't think of it as necessarily 7, I've started with assume that the first cards that I want that I know are going to be the basis of the deck, that I have a playset of each. And almost certainly that will not be the case when I am done, but it really helps you think of what does the deck really need to do to win, to get whatever effect I'm looking for. Sorry, chat is being a bit distracting, listing all the things you can have in your deck, like Relentless Rats and Persistent Petitioners, that you can have more than a play set of.
Who is that jackass doing that? Spoilers. It's Mike.
Because if I assume that I'm starting with a play set of Persistent Petitioners, I may not have room for anything else in the deck. Because a play set is literally infinite. So, what was that card that if you had, we can give you our keep if you had, 200 cards in your deck, you'd win?
Battle of Wits.
Battle of Wits. Yeah, buddy. So, but yeah, so the rule of 7 can be a decent way to really kind of hone in on what actually belongs in the deck. Because I know that I fall victim to, both for competitive decks and for casual decks, to trying...
Wait a minute, is it 7 or 9?
Maybe it's 9?
Because 7 times 4 is only 28.
Yeah, that's what I said. Is it
and
9?
Then 9
that would
times
be 36, which would make more sense.
Yeah.
36
so
cards and 24 lands.
Hang on, let me go check to see what was mentioned. Oh, it is the rule of 9. I'm sorry.
It's the rule of 9.
I feel like freaking King Arthur. 1, 2, 5. 3, sir. 3.
So
it's the rule of 7. 9. 9. Yes.
So the rule of 9. But I tend to, when I build a deck both competitively and casually, I try to make that deck do too many things. And that's one of the reasons that I have enjoyed Commander, is because it's fine for a deck to, have one of this and one of that. In fact, you need it. And you need your deck to be diverse. Although even still, you may try and tighten it down, and my decks still feel a bit hodgepodge from time to time. But this goes back even to before I was playing Magic, when I was playing like the old Star Wars decks and other games, whereas I just wanted something for like every occasion, or something to make sure that I was protected against everything, or I wanted the deck to have like lots of ways to win. And the problem is, by making it extremely diverse, you're making sure that it's not good at any one thing. It's the jack of all trades, but it sucks. So, yeah. and it means, while one of the reasons I've always loved Magic is the fact that no 2 games, at least hopefully the way I play, will never go exactly the same. At some point when you're building a deck, you want some consistency. So, and this applies much for playing competitively, then you really want to have as much consistency as possible, because you want to know what your deck is going to do every time. But even casually, you don't want your deck to be a complete dumpster fire all the time. If that happens sometimes, okay, great. But what are you building the deck to do? Which we mentioned earlier. And the rule of 9, as we've established,
I told you I'd never heard of it before.
It's a good way to really kind of tie that down, because then you start saying, if I have nothing else, I have these. And then you tweak.
I thought the word was twerk.
No, that's a plank. Like a fish plank. Long John Silver.
Did you just say something about Long John Silver twerking?
No.
Oh, okay.
So what's another good base really that's productive for players to keep in mind when they're deck building?
Well, so what things have we discussed so far?
Well, the just wrong 2020 thing.
Yep.
Don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about
it's not a bad place to start, but again, you need to play your deck in order to determine if that really holds up.
Well, and especially 20 creatures, 20 non-creatures. If you feel like that's like what you need to have, like that's a rule set down somewhere, or your deck won't perform, that's probably not accurate.
Yeah.
But we have talked about the rule of 20s. We've talked about the rule of 9s as something to do. We have talked about thinking about how does your deck perform playing it, and how do other people respond to it, and what can you do about that? How do you evolve? How do you make sure the deck is performing well when everyone else is also trying to make their deck perform well? So we've kind of talked about those things at some length with some of them.
Mm-hmm. And to follow back on something like that, because of a comment we got in the chat from Skyatonic. Skytonic says, for me, I look at a deck and try to build many paths to victory. That's fine. What we're cautioning against is being so unfocused that you have just pointless stuff that either can't do enough to win on its own, or is fighting against each other. You know, like you're building a mono green beatdown deck, but then you put a couple poison creatures in it. You know. Yeah. For no good reason. Or you have an
example that I actually had.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was a normal reanimator deck where you dump things in the graveyard and then reanimate them.
Mm-hmm.
That had, I don't remember specifically, but it had cards like that one where you exile creatures from your graveyard to get zombies. Whose name escapes me. But it had cards. Yeah, it had cards like that, but the whole point of the deck was trying to dump creatures in the graveyard and then get them out on the cheap and quick.
Mm-hmm.
And I had these other cards in the deck that were working literally counter to that. Like some kind of dumbass.
Mm-hmm. And Stark just commented with an example, like the exact next example I was going to use. So I'll just throw a couple mill cards into this control deck that's looking to win with a few massive creatures. Maybe I'll mill some important stuff. It's like, yeah, if you think your deck is going to try to win with mill, you have to actually have enough cards in there to do it. You can't just throw enough in there to mill, 12 cards total and think that's actually going to be a viable strategy.
Because you might hit something.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny, I was actually playing against a guy on Arena a little while ago, and his first play, he had all shock lands or lands, some of the lands that if I see a forest or a plains, I come and untap those sort of the buddy lands.
Mm-hmm.
And his first play was a Chromantic Lantern, and I'm like, I wonder what this is doing. The funny thing was I was playing an aggressive red-white deck that was choosing not to be very aggressive, and one of the first things I did was play out a creature, and it got countered by a spell that also milled me. I'm like, okay, And then he played the wall that when it comes in, it mills you. I'm like, okay, I know what he's doing here. And then he played a dragon. I'm like, okay. And then what I think it really was basically a 5-color good stuff deck that countered some of my stuff. And I'm kind of like, I'm watching this unfold. And the thing is, I won't beat around the bush. He beat me. I think part of that was because he had some controlling elements, and I did not get off to a very aggressive start, and he basically just played a bunch of powerful things. And I have a mixed opinion on good stuff decks, because especially on a format like Arena, you may not have an expansive collection. These are the things you really like to play. All the more power to you. But they didn't really synergize. It was just, here's amazing things, and counter and mill you for a little bit. And maybe it kept me off balance because I didn't know what he was doing, but I really didn't know what he was doing. So it was hard to follow. And I'm never going to tell someone, hey, don't play that for Fun Police, especially when clearly it was not like a super competitive deck. It was just what he wanted to play. That's fine. But I spent most of that game not understanding what he was trying to do. So, whatever. I guess it comes back to, again, know what your deck is going to do to win and take the steps to try to make that work. And maybe the opponent picks up on it, and maybe they don't. Maybe you have some misdirection. The problem with misdirection, especially with something like Mill, is if you devote some cards to doing it, but not enough to get there, then you're not using those card slots on whatever you really actually have a chance of winning with.
Yeah.
But I don't want that to come across as, oh, he beat me and his deck was bad, because that's not the case. I just have a hard time evaluating quote-unquote good stuff decks, because I'm not sure what they're going to lay down next, and whether or not it's anything you normally see with anything else in the deck. Something to keep in mind, I suppose, that we haven't really talked about, we've hit on this a little bit, is what are you drawing cards from? Are you drawing cards from your collection? Dirk mentioned, trading cards.
I was about to say, the library.
What are you building your deck from? Because Dirk mentioned trading, that we would trade with each other. Well, no, this is not a shared fate collection. I'll take some of your deck and some of your deck, some of your deck. I mean, like, what cards are you using to build the deck? Where are you getting those from? Because some people, and we talked about this way back at the beginning, if they net deck a deck, they will literally go to the card store, support your local card store guys, and say, these are the cards I need for this deck. Here's a list, give them to me. Other people will say, I can come up with about 90% of this. I will fill in the rest with cards from my collection. Or let me trade for the ones I need. So, I feel like I should close the chat, because you guys are in a good way. Like, you guys are very distracting, and I appreciate, some of the comments, but I guess I'm too easily distracted. Squirrel! And I'm sorry. I am so sorry. But what constraints are you under? Because most of us can't afford to go out and buy a brand new deck every time we see one we like, because we'll be in debt really quickly, or we only get one deck a year. But if you're someone that likes to see new decks, you're probably not going out and buying a brand new deck every time, because that becomes extremely cost prohibitive. Someone that plays competitively will probably go out and buy decks, because that's what they need to compete.
Yeah, fastest and easiest ways to get the cards to go in a deck that you want to play competitively.
You got it. If you're playing competitively, like seriously competitively, you're probably not going out and buying like a box, because you probably won't get everything you need out of that one box. So that's one thing. But if you're doing it casually, and if you're if you have any kind of budget to be spent on food and shelter and other things, you may not be buying a brand new deck every time. You may be purchasing some of the cards, but you're probably trading or getting other things. It's one of the reasons.
Or even making heavy substitutions. Like there have been times where I've seen a deck that I liked the idea. I'm like, okay, I like this. Maybe I only have like 40% of these non-land cards, but maybe I can come up with some half decent substitutions.
Right. Or maybe it inspires me to say, again, we've talked about putting our twist on things. I don't have this Ionize, but I do have a something really awesome that fits in the deck, and it wasn't in the list, but I have it in my collection, and it kind of inspires you not just to put your own stamp on it, but something that maybe would work even better for your play group. See, tying these things together. Want to note real quick, Skytonic mentions that they've seen in their play group it became a nuclear arms race. People have stopped playing due to it, and that unfortunately happens, especially when somebody sees the brand new shiny Planeswalker or amazing mythic enchantment that turns the whole table on its head, and somebody else is like, that's really cool, I want something on that level. And then everybody can start, and instead of everyone evolving a little bit at a time to compensate for each other's play styles, it becomes the arms race. And it's more about sheer power than anything else. And that can get expensive, and it can also get demoralizing because you're not necessarily playing the decks you want to play anymore. You're just playing what you think can be competitive. That's the difference.
Yeah.
So I think that also comes back to, a lot of these things are coming back to things we talked about, but know your play group. And if you are enjoying playing with that group, be willing to adapt to it. Maybe also be willing to say at a certain point, am I still getting what I want out of this play group?
Mm-hmm.
But that kind of gets out of the scope of deck building and more about who do you play with. I think we've touched on that once or twice, but that again could be its own episode of, more knowing what you want to get out of Magic as an entire experience, not just one game.
Yeah. I think it came up earlier that when we were in college, we were really heavy on the Tammy psychographic and the Johnny Jenny psychographic, not so much on Spike. Just to recap for those who aren't familiar with the terms. And so Timmy and Mark Rosewater has added, Timmy Tammy to be, fair. The Timmy Tammy archetype wants to feel something. They want to have an experience. They want to make this big, awesome play. They'll be like, ha, 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 that was amazing. The Johnny Jenny archetype wants to express themselves. They want to show off how creative they are, or clever they are with coming up with this odd little thing to do. When all the pieces come together, they'll be like, yes, that was really cool. And Spike is already a pretty neutral name. Spike wants to prove how good they are. Spike is the one that's most interested with winning as the way to get enjoyment from the game and proving that they're the best player.
And so, for the record, Megan and Casey used to have a cat whose name was Spike, and she was a she.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the card Spike was a she, right? Oh yeah, because it had the no shirt that became a shirt.
Right. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So yeah.
Yeah. So if there's a lot of Spikes in your group, then you might be more susceptible to that danger of the nuclear arms race. But hopefully you can talk to each other and be excellent enough to each other that won't get into bad situations.
I feel really lucky that we never had that problem, and we never even had to like sit down and be like, look.
Mm-hmm.
We just all of us would have that one deck that was stupidly overpowered and would just always win, but gradually we just stopped playing those decks or took them apart for the most part, unless, all right, damn it, I'm winning one game tonight, you know.
Yeah, like maybe Corey was more spiky, but still he was spiky with Johnny
like
stuff.
Heavy Johnny spiky though.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So he would get aggravated when his, ridiculous plan that he wanted to win with didn't come to fruition. But let's be honest, it was a ridiculous plan.
It really was, yeah. But like we all managed to keep our own checks and balances like on ourselves usually. I don't remember having to be like, look, you need to quit playing that deck to anybody ever. I don't know if any of the rest of us ever did either. Now, I think at one point somebody, it might have been Mike, it seems like it was Mike, went, is this deck too powerful? Like, is this any fun to play against? And we would go, I mean, not really?
I would take cards out if I could tell that they would lead to really super unfun situations.
Yeah, and like Dirk, I'm not gonna, tap the Well-Wisher this turn and gain another 180 life. Just so you guys know. And we're like, thanks, Dirk. But if you try to kill his Well-Wisher, he's gonna tap it as many times as he can before that effect resolves.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I can't speak to the whole nuclear arms race side of things because we never experienced it. Like, we didn't have that play group that, okay, well, he's got a deck that wins by turn 5. But I found a deck that wins by turn 4, and then you pour all your effort into making, and someone else goes, damn it, I don't get to play anymore. So they make a deck that wins on turn 3. I mean, we all had decks that won either too fast or too powerful or too whatever, but we didn't play them very often because we had a gazillion decks each.
Yeah, and they just come together out of dumb luck because, again, we were college students with no money.
Exactly, yeah, and Brian would take it apart after it won once anyway, so we didn't even have to worry about him.
Yep. Okay, did what I wanted to do. Next.
So I really feel bad for playgroups that experience the nuclear arms race and don't survive.
Yeah.
Because that's sad. But what you gonna do?
But it happens. We hear about it.
I mean, there was a mention of it in chat earlier. Somewhere. Sky Tonic, yeah. Well, it's 10 o'clock. Should we stop? Are we good? Is there more to say?
I mean, there's always...
Okay, that's a dumb question, but is there more that you guys wanted to say?
Well, there's always more you can learn about deck building because it's a journey, and it's not one that you really ever stop. Even the pros that's one of the things about Magic is it literally reinvents itself to some extent every 3 months. Sometimes more frequently than that. If you play some of the older formats, ironically, because some of the products go directly there. So my point is that we could sit here all day and list tips and ideas for deck building, and hopefully that would help someone. But you're never going to be completely done learning how to build a deck, just like you're never going to completely learn the entire game of Magic, because there's always going to be something else to learn. And for some people, that's frustrating. I know that for me previously, when I started to try to play competitively a little bit, I almost had this mentality of, I know how to play this game. I should be able to win this game. I guess as a lifelong gamer who always played a lot of video games, I understand how the game works. I understand the enemy patterns. I have played this enough. Therefore, where's my end boss? Where's my trophy? I think I said this to Mike once after we were leaving some tournament, and I didn't want to come across as entitled, but I think it was part of that mentality. And I have shed that a long time ago because it's not what I never saw myself as a pro player, but I felt like I knew the game really well and I wanted to be acknowledged for that, and that's not why I played. It wasn't really why I played them, but it's definitely not what I play now. So too long, didn't listen. You're never going to be completely done learning how to build a deck. So hopefully what we have said has been helpful. More than 20 lands is probably a good idea. If you don't remember anything else. That's all I got.
Yeah, start at 24 and work your way back. Trust me, it'll be a lot less frustrating.
One thing that I wanted to call out specifically that's been touched on several times, but I just wanted to state it outright, was that playing games with a deck is critical to figuring out how to build it better. Like after I build a new deck, over the course of several days, I will spend, collectively hours goldfishing it. And that'll give me some clues about things that might not work, that things that might be really good and I need to emphasize. But it won't be until I actually get into real games of Magic that I figure out what's really good, what's really bad, and what I really need to focus on removing or strengthening or otherwise changing about it to make sure it's built correctly, or as correct as I'm able to figure.
Yeah. One of my favorite, just going tangentially off of that, one of my favorite deck building experiences wasn't even for one of my decks. It was Mike had this stupid goblin deck built for standard, and he brought it over one night on like a Wednesday or Thursday night, and we just sat out in the living room floor just fooling with it until it turned into his big red deck that had Koth that we both desperately loved.
That's the rare example I have of one of my homebrews being actually good instead of just horrible or okay. I'm still really proud of that.
And I am too, because I helped. Because I think you were like, hey, I have this deck, but I think I want to try. I think that's why you came over, was because you wanted to try to turn it into something big red. I can't remember. Or if that's something we figured out while we were looking at it.
It's something we figured out while we were looking at it, because I had some like semi-transformative stuff in the sideboard, and we realized that was just a much better deck.
Right. Yeah, we sat out in the living room floor for, I don't know, like 2 or 3 hours probably, just staring at it and counting things and figuring stuff out until we came up with the first draft of his big red deck that he later would refine and just make awesome. And that's one of the few times that I went to F&M both to play, because when Mike couldn't make it one week, I was like, hey, can I borrow that deck? I'll take it to F&M. And I actually went to F&M a couple times just to watch Mike play to see how the deck went. Which has never been a thing that I do on a regular basis, ever. So, yeah. There you go. So do we have anything else there? The two of you that are here?
Nope.
No, I covered the last thing that I wanted to state.
Well, Brian burped, but hopefully he's done as well.
I think so.
All right. Well, shall we wrap it up then?
Mm-hmm.
All right then. No dying.
I'll try not. That will sort of be my final thought for the night. Will be, I don't think I'm sick, but I definitely don't feel like my normal self in terms of my hunger and everything of that. We officially turned the stuff over. So we bought a house a couple weeks ago, and we officially turned it over to the property company. So now it's being fixed up so that it's being rent ready.
Nice.
And I'm obviously dying.
Damn it, Dirk. Rule 1.
I know. There's really not a whole lot that I can think of that I'm just all out for. Like that just comes to mind in terms of a major topic to talk about at all. Yeah, I got nothing. I'm sorry.
Now you're starting to sound like me.
Yeah, it's just like, I'm sure there's something I could rant and talk about, but the honest truth is, there's nothing's coming to mind in terms of anything in particular. I could just pick off like a whole bunch and be like, yeah, with this. And that's sort of where my final thought is on it. In terms of everything right now, is just that I'm tired. I'm looking forward to the week.
Yep.
And that's essentially where I stand right now.
Oh, Dirk, you'll love
Yes.
this. Let me tell a quick, very short story.
Okay.
That came to my attention this morning in the Manapool Discord server. You know Plague Inc., the video game?
No.
Oh, well, damn. So, Plague Inc. is a video game where you are a disease,
Okay.
and the ultimate goal, is to wipe out humanity.
Mm-hmm.
You want to infect everybody, and then start killing people before they can work on a cure.
Mm-hmm.
And you have you have buffs, things like genetic recombination and stuff like that make you better. You know, it slows down the cure and stuff like that. And thanks to a petition, there we go, that's the word. Thanks to a petition that's been circulating the internet, the makers of Plague Inc. have decided, or have agreed, to add in, as a buff to your disease, anti-vaxxers.
Wah, wah.
And because I've played it on the YouTube channel in the past, people pointed it out to me, and I almost died. That anti-vaxxers are an actual threat to, you know, our general herd immunity. So they're going to be included in the game as a buff for certain diseases. Which, I mean, is sad that that's the case, but that's freaking funny.
Oh, that's incredibly funny. Funny, not funny in the ha 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 realm, but funny in the, yeah, that sucks. That's the world we live in. Kind of funny.
Yeah.
It's the kind of funny that you laugh on the outside but cry on the inside.
Yeah, you laugh to keep from crying and losing all hope. Exactly. So that's why it's getting added into Plague Inc. Isn't that great?
That is awesome. In a terrible way.
Yay.
Well,
we try not to get political on the not odds and ends, but for God's sake, vaccinate your kids. All right, people, this isn't politics. This is biology.
Well, and I know that we've had one where, in our odds and ends, we all chimed in on vaccines and everything, and Mike is the most epic of people being like, it's herd immunity, it's going through all these things, and essentially Mike's just saying, don't be stupid, get vaccinated, you stupid people.
Herd immunity only works when the herd has immunity.
What?
Dot. You stupid people. I love Mike's bluntness and Mike's tone of, why are you being dumb about this?
Also,
go do the thing that helps everybody else.
On an unrelated but still related note, at the card shop that we have been to many times for pre-releases and whatnot, House of Cards, one of the people there has a compromised immune system. And she recently got hit with 2 different strands of the flu and had to be rushed to the hospital because people are like, I'm sick, but I'm still going out. Don't do that. If you're sick, even if, I feel okay to go, keep your ass at home.
Yeah.
Or only go out and do the things that you have to do. And I tell you what, going to the card shop is not one of them.
Yep. My parents, they called me earlier this evening, and my oldest has been wanting to go over to the house and spend the weekend as part of his birthday. And like I said, my mom called earlier and said mom and dad both have the flu, and they said, we know he really wants to do this, but we do not want him over here if we're both sick. And I'm going, I don't blame you. You guys get better. We can postpone this to like next weekend or one of the weekends where, he won't get sick and you guys won't get him sick and you will all be better.
Yep. There will be other two.
All right. Well, I am gonna head on to bed because I am tired. My brain no worky no more.
Good
night. Call.
Good night, everybody.
Night, Dirk.
Good night.
All right, who's up next?
Well, I would like to report, speaking of herd immunity, to spoilers, that yes, after however many months of begging and pleading and making fun of him and mocking him, that Mike has now seen Infinity War.
Oh my God.
Woo!
Thank you.
It was a group effort. So it was very nice to see Mike. He came over on Saturday. We showed off a little bit of Kingdom Hearts 3, let him play for a while and do some mini games, cook some food with Remy. I tried to make a flambe, and I rotated the controller too fast, and it blew up in my face in about 2 seconds. And it was so spontaneous that everybody just stopped and laughed because it was like, what?
It was pretty impressive.
Yes, it was. Cost me those ingredients, gosh darn it. And then Mike.
That's okay. I hear this might be a good place to get ingredients. Because Donald says that constantly, apparently.
It's super helpful. Anybody that says that they say it too much doesn't know what they're talking about. It is super helpful because you're like, oh, cool, ingredients. So, anyway, and I'll let Mike share his thoughts on the game if he wants. If he doesn't, then that's fine too. But after that and some dinner, Mike and Sam and I sat down and played a game of Commander. We had to stop because Sam had to go to bed. And just so everybody knew, I was like, we had one of those terrifying board positions where I was terrified of Sam and Mike. I said, okay, well, just so you know, here's the terminus I put back on top of my library. And Mike's like, yeah, he looked at his hand and he's like, yeah, this wasn't going to end right away. And Sam had committed a lot of stuff to the board, but she was doing all right. I'm like, yeah, it's like 40 minutes past your bedtime. And if we don't start the movie soon, Mike's never going to leave. And as it was, he was there until almost 11 anyway, which for Brian and Carrie is very late. So, but glad you enjoyed the movie, and it was cool to see you.
Yeah, thank you.
This is payback for us not calling you when we hung out last week, a couple weeks ago, isn't it?
What? No. Maybe. No. What? No, it was funny. It was just like Mike was saying last time that you offered to show him Infinity War, and he said something about, it would feel anticlimactic if he didn't see it here. I was like, sure. And then later I was
I was afraid he would be offended.
No, I wasn't going to be offended. But later I was like, was he trying to say that he should come over to watch it? So I was like, hey, you want to come over and watch it? He's like, sure. I'm like, all right, great. Check this off the list. So, no, this wasn't, this was literally like, hey, he was actually in town this weekend. He wasn't doing anything with Ashley or going to see his parents or working or any of that stuff. And our schedules actually lined up for like 5 hours. Pretty sweet.
Wow.
When we had food from Chopsticks, and that was pretty cool. I like it. Although they got Mike's order wrong. He asked for literally 2 things. He asked for which roll was that?
It's a spider roll.
Spider roll and a seaweed salad. And he got the spider roll and 2 spring rolls. So,
two spring rolls is a seaweed salad, right?
So I just imagine there's some other person out there in the Thomasville area who was very disappointed by their seaweed salad.
Yeah, like what's this? They were rocking and rolling. I told these guys they were rocking and rolling when I got there. They were super busy. I went out and grabbed the food and brought it home. Carrie and Sam got to stay home. Samantha did not, because we did not go to church on Sunday because we were up too late on Saturday. And we had a lot of stuff to do around the house anyway. Samantha did not. She changed pajamas, but she never changed into non-pajamas all weekend. I'm a responsible all right, now I'm really done for now.
I've done that. Recently.
Yes, but you didn't tell a child it was okay to do that.
No, I was the child. It's okay to do that. Yay. Okay, Mike.
Okay, final thoughts. So right before we started the show proper, Ashley sent me a link to a Washington Post article. The headline is, "Your next FedEx delivery could be a pizza." Apparently, FedEx is testing these little delivery robots, and they're partnering with Pizza Hut, Walmart, and Walgreens and a few other places to test these little delivery robots in Memphis, Tennessee, near where there's a huge FedEx hub to test deliveries in the city. So it's pretty neat. It basically looks like a little cooler on wheels, a little camera on top so you can see where it's going. It's pretty cute. But I found that pretty fascinating. FedEx delivering someone a pizza.
But does it have to be Pizza Hut?
That's who they're partnering with now. If it goes well, I'm sure they'll branch out. I like Pizza Hut pizza. What's wrong with pizza?
I really like Pizza Hut as a kid. It was always where we go after Little League. Always. As an adult, don't like it as much as I used to, and that's all I'll say.
All right.
Yeah, I always remember Pizza Hut pizza as being way more greasy than others. And also there's one on campus, so like...
It is.
After college, I was about sick of Pizza Hut anyway.
That makes sense.
I ate there a good amount while we were at college. Because it was that, or Chick-fil-A, which is also one of those things where when you don't have it all the time, you're like, it's great. And then when it's always there, you're like, ugh. And the calf. So, yeah. Anything, if you have it a whole lot, is not going to be as good as is if you don't have it all the time. That's kind of how these things work.
Mm-hmm. After I cut out of college and grad school, it was years and years before I could even look at a cup of noodles. or a package of ramen.
Sorry, reflex. All right, then. So is that it for you?
Yes, pizza delivery robot. That's it for me.
That's a good place to stop. So, I guess that leaves me where, hey, people, I'm Chewy and I do things.
The things, huh?
Yeah, right here on twitch.tv/themanapool, where we live stream both the Manapool podcast and Monday Night Magic. I also live stream the video games, where I, let's see, what have I done lately? I don't know. I haven't loaded the page to remind myself. So I did some, let's see, in the last week or so, I've done more World of Light in Super Smash Brothers, because it is currently my favorite thing to record and edit, oddly enough. I did some Mario Odyssey, and just last night I streamed some... I did the Tavern Brawl again this week, so I've done all 3 of the Brawl of Champions. That'll be going up probably Sunday again. And also, I started up some Heroic Blackrock Mountain again.
Oh, wow.
Hoping that if I have more videos after the 3-hour Ren to Blackhand video, that will force me to actually start that monster editing job that turning that into a watchable video will be. Because it's intimidating. Even though I have an idea of how I want to handle it, actually starting it and making it work does not sound appealing. And since that was recorded, I'm going to say several months ago at this point. Okay. Oh, Brian's computer's taking off. Okay. I was like, what? What? Are we okay?
It's getting tired.
Thought it was the air raid sirens. I'm like, damn it, Dirk, you started us off dark and now it's come to pass.
Would you believe I've actually been worrying about that lately, what with India and Pakistan shooting at each other?
What? Yes, thank you for bringing us down again, Mike. Anyway, so that's what I've been doing here on Twitch. And yep, there it goes again.
Yep, sorry.
Over on YouTube, what's been going up lately, I'm still on one video, back down on one video a day. But what's been going up the last few days is more World of Light, Super Smash Brothers, and some Hearthstone. Because I had a really sweet stream a while back that is going to get turned into 4 videos. 2 of which are uploaded. One's public as of right now. One's public. One will be public in a day or 2. I think tomorrow maybe. I can't remember. And then the 3rd one I just rendered before we started the show. And then the 4th one I will edit up soon. So yay! Once I go back to 2 videos a day, once I get caught up on the rest of life, then I'll have a lot more. But at the moment, that's what it is. It's World of Light and Hearthstone stream. Also, the Tavern Brawl will be going up too. So, yay!
Yay.
It's weird. I did 1 video a day for so long that was just normal. And then I did 2 videos a day for only, like, I don't know, a month maybe? And now dropping back to 1 video a day just feels empty. It's really weird how quickly things like that become the norm. And not the guy from Cheers. That's just norm. But anyway, so that was, yeah, that's YouTube and Twitch. Yay. Of course, the both podcasts go up on YouTube as well as on their specific RSS feeds for the audio version. Yes. But, of course, if you want to help support what I do with this massive amount of content creation, then by all means, go to patreon.com/themanapool and sign up to become a lifeguard. There are several tiers of lifeguards. The uncommon lifeguards get early access to YouTube videos and Manipool episodes. The rare lifeguards get the early access stuff and the odds and ends, all the stuff recorded before and after both Monday Night Magic and the Manipool. And it's uncensored and unfiltered and generally unsafe for consumption. I know I said last week I would have those all caught up by the time we recorded this week, but various other flavors of life thing got in the way. But I am very close to being caught up. As a matter of fact, I think the episode number that's been on this episode this entire time is actually wrong. It is, yeah. This is not 5:45, as it's said on screen this entire time. It's actually 5:44. I forgot I went ahead and bumped it up at the end of last week's episode. Whoops.
Oh, well.
Well, that's going to get confusing. Oh, well. But, yeah, that's the uncommon. And then the mythic lifeguards get the early access. They get the odds and ends. And they get the sponsorship shout out on both podcasts and on the end screen for all of the YouTube videos. Now, since we're recording this on the 28th, that means it's not going to be quite right for what actually is the case on when it goes public, but whatever. So I would like to thank our mythic lifeguards, and I thought I had that page open and I don't because I'm stupid. Kim Ho, Al, Paul David, Lance Delicious, Timu Hellas Haryu, Connor Kennedy, John Morris, Alex Gonzalez, Jeff Spencer, Stuart Slaw, PJ McMullen, Sophia Brittain, Casey, Fayen Says, Danny Leal, Jason Doan, Cody Buckowing, Jake Jansons, Jason Kaus, Gothic Man, Brian DeLucci, Stark Maximum, Keith Moody, John Parker, Aleph Cat, Dan Holm, Bartle, Mike Miller-Burned, and the Beast Father, Aaron Goodwine. Thank you all so very much for your support, and to all of the lifeguards at whatever tier. Thank you all so very much. I say this every week, but I quite literally could not do this without you.
It's true.
It's damn true. But I think that's it. Is that everything?
Think so.
I guess it's everything. So this has been the Manipool number 544. Contrary to what you might have seen or heard this entire episode. Oh my god. Thank you all so very much for listening or watching or whatever. And go build some decks.